Wildfires are an undeniable reality for California, and this year's devastating blazes in Los Angeles were a stark reminder of that. But even though fire is unpredictable, proactive steps can mean the difference between survival and devastation. Our next guest is a wildfire expert here to share some ways that we can create stronger, safer communities. Let's welcome Michelle Steinberg, Wildfire Division Director of the National Fire Protection Association. Hello, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks.
So, Michelle, during the January wildfires in the Los Angeles area, some homes survived while many were destroyed. Can you share your insights on why?
Yes, I actually had the privilege to be in California to see some of the destruction and the saved homes in the Palisades and the Eaton fires. And what we saw that was common across the homes that survived were the features like a non-combustible roof, screened vents, good siding and windows, and then the immediate zone around the home within 5 feet. There was nothing really that could burn or carry fire to the house, as well as working across the yard landscape into the neighboring yards to make sure there was not a lot of fuel for that fire to be carried to the home. Those were some of the things that we saw in common.
And these fires impacted so many people. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions about how wildfires spread?
Many people think, first of all, that it's only in a forest or a wildfire fuel area that fires are going to occur. But as we see, they can enter communities very readily with the high winds. People often think there's a wave of fire that's going to come and destroy everything in its path. And that's why sometimes they start to think, well, there's nothing I can do about that. In fact, fire moves from combustion to combustion, from fuel to fuel. It is a pathway, and we can break up that pathway with these kinds of practices of removing some of this fuel for the fire, whether it be on our homes, right around our homes, or in the broader landscape.
Good to know. And I mean, for those rebuilding after a fire, what are ways to make homes more fire resistant, Michelle?
Right. So building new gives us a lot of opportunities, and the California Building Code contains the right kinds of standards for people to follow to make a home that's sustainable and safer. And so that, again, is a whole variety of materials that can be non-combustible for roofs, for walls. That exterior wall is what you want to think about for windows. And then, of course, there are products on the market like vents that will resist embers entering, screening for any other openings, and the practices right around that near space to the home so that you don't have anything that can catch fire and lead fire to the home, such as fences and decks that are combustible.
And home ignition zone, can you explain what that is and how it works?
Right. So that is a phrase coined by fire scientists that looked at why homes and how homes burned in these wildfires. And it really is a function of the home itself. So that exterior, like I mentioned, roof, walls, windows, eaves and vents, that exterior part of the house, and then everything around it, up to a maximum of about 100 feet. And what researchers are looking at now is that 0 to 5 zone is the most critical zone. So essentially making sure that if an ember should land in the gutters, right in the corners of the home, get sucked into a vent, or the potential for that, if we can break up that ability for embers to do that by having those good pieces, we have modified that home ignition zone. We've made it less likely to ignite. And if the home doesn't ignite, it can't burn. So we need to do the work on our home and work with our neighbors who might be close enough with their home and their other fuels in the yard to affect us. So that's the kind of practice that we want to see.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're keeping everyone safe, including our neighbors. You mentioned critical zones. What are the most critical actions homeowners can take to improve their wildfire resilience?
Right. So we really are focused on looking right outside that exterior of the home and working your way out into that wider zone. But starting with that home in the first 5 feet to look for any openings that might need to be screened, any repairs you might need to make to shingles. I know that a lot of people use the beautiful Spanish tile roofs in California, making sure those, we call them bird stops sometimes, but if a bird can get in, an ember can get in. So make sure those are well sealed. And then working out into your landscape, making sure there's nothing touching that house or within that first 5 feet that could carry fire at all, that could burn.
All insightful information to help us better prepare for wildfires. Michelle, thank you. And to our viewers, you can learn more about the FireWise USA program by heading to nfpa.org/wildfire.